Hello there, IELTS students. Welcome to IELTS Podcast. You no longer have to worry, fret or panic about IELTS because we are here to guide you through this test jungle. Enjoy these IELTS tutorials, and if you need more help or want to access the famous online course, you can visit us at IELTSPodcast.com.
Hello, it's me, Rob. Remember me? If you haven't heard me before, I'm an ex-IELTS examiner who still gets involved a lot with IELTS teaching and helping people to do their best in the exam, get the highest grade they can get, the highest band score possible, to help them on their way to whatever they want to do afterwards, whether it's studying or working or whatever it might be. In fact, today that's my topic actually. Oh my goodness me! I'm getting into these IELTS topics a lot recently because they're so important. That on IELTSPodcast.com we've got this IELTS topic ideas ebooks, books 1 and 2. You can get hold of them yourselves actually. I'm going to talk about one of the topics today, but you can get hold of these and have access to them to see a lot of great material there if you sign up to the new essay checker that Ben's been offering on the website. You sign up, get the free materials, get access to all kinds of stuff, and send your essays in to get checked on the spot within 24 hours or something like that. I think it's 24. I could be wrong. Maybe it's 48 hours. Anyway, 1 or maximum 2 days, you get the results, you get the feedback, you get an estimate of your scores, you'll find out what you're doing right, and also get help on where you can improve. Very, very important tools for us to really push ahead towards getting a great score in IELTS. So I think you'll agree with me. There's a lot of work to be done on IELTS, isn't there? A lot of hours we have to put in, a lot of work, and that's what we're talking about today. Actually, we're going to look at this idea of how much are we working, how long are we working these days. I've read, for example, that people seem to be working harder than ever. We read not that long ago, a few years ago, that countries were reducing the number of hours people had to work every week from 40 to 35 or something like that. But now it seems that people are working more hours. Yes, countries. Which countries are these with long average working hours? Some people say, of course, that there's a connection, between how much people work and the economic success of the country. Ooh, it's all very complex, isn't it? I mean, can we take that argument that countries may be economically successful if people work harder? But of course, what about the negative side of that? How many negative aspects can we think of? Again, we're looking at it from 2 points of view, typical of IELTS. Weighing up a situation, looking at a topic and thinking, well, this is true, but on the other hand, if we look at it from a different point of view, of course, with that, we would need to think of vocabulary, naturally, as well as different grammar points. And we're also going to find time today just to look at a couple of sample answers, both in writing and in speaking. About the grammar, well, I think we're going to look in particular, at certain types of complex clauses that we can use in our IELTS writing. And these clauses, which we would consider, of course, to enable us to create complex sentences, are pretty important. I mean, if you're looking for a band 7 or higher, band 8, band 9, you've got to be able to handle well, accurately, and frequently complex sentences. What is a complex sentence? Don't make it too complex, please. 2 clauses, 2 parts. One independent clause, which sometimes we call the main clause, and one, maybe more, but I wouldn't really recommend more. One dependent clause that shows the relationships between the 2 things. In other words, what is a dependent clause? as the name suggests, a dependent clause depends on another part of the sentence to make sense. For example, let me read this first one. I'm only going to read the first part, and I'm going to stop, and I'm going to ask you, does this make any sense to you? And you're going to say, no, we need something else. In other words, we need the independent clause to complete the idea, to make the whole sentence intelligible. Listen, it begins with that wonderful word, although. Although. Here we go. Although countries with long working hours are often economically successful. I stopped. I've got a comma. I stopped. I'm not coming back until you tell me. Does it make any sense? Of course it doesn't. We need something else. It's like halfway there. You're thinking, come on, carry on. What are you going to tell me? I will. Although countries with long working hours are often economically successful, this can lead to social issues such as stress and lack of leisure time. We've got a cause, a consequence, if you like. What is the consequence of long working hours? Despite the idea that it is possibly a key factor in economic success. We can also add information in a complex sentence through what we call a relative clause. A relative clause begins with who, whose. For example, this one. Workers in these countries who often spend long hours at their jobs may suffer from burnout. Now, I'm adding more information there, actually. I mean, we don't need the who often spend long hours at their jobs. We don't need that part to make sense. The sense is workers in these countries, which countries? The countries where people work long hours, may suffer from burnout. We're adding information through that extra clause, which we can put in the middle. We can insert it in the middle of the sentence. Very useful sentences, those. We can also do this in a different way. We've got although. What about a simpler way of comparing things? We want to compare two ideas. How about if we begin a sentence with while? While these countries may boast high GDP figures, the quality of life for workers may be compromised. So while one thing is true, another thing is also true. While is a good one, isn't it? Because it's simply making a comparison between two things. We could also use as at the beginning. As a tricky little word because it means so many things. It's here a synonym of because. Listen, as workers spend more time at work, they have less time for social activities and relaxation. And finally, another example there with a simple if. Yeah, why not? A conditional sentence. If a country prioritizes economic success over the well-being of its workers, what will be the consequence? Social problems are likely to arise. That is a relatively simple conditional sentence. We're saying, if this happens, something else will happen, or may happen, or in this case, is likely to happen. We're thinking about that whole world of probability. What is the probability of something happening? Well, arguments for and against, of course, long average working hours. You're probably going to be saying, no, I don't want to work so hard. And of course, against, let's think of the negative stuff first. Against the long working hours, yes, we can think of the negative aspects that it would have on personal life, on family life. You need your free time, and also can lead to perhaps illness and stress amongst the workers. What we call very often, the work-life balance for many people. And I sometimes think, yeah, it's for those lucky people, probably me, probably you that's listening in to me now. who are lucky enough to have jobs that we like, that have ambitions to study or study more things in order to have a nice career, and we enjoy our work. Yes, we're the ones that can talk about a work-life balance, and many people who are just working and working and working in a job they don't enjoy. I think it's a different question. These are all very negative aspects, aren't they? On the positive side, of course, I suppose that the longer people work, the more they produce, and that leads in a society to economic productivity and development, and that should be good in the end, no? If not for us, then for our children and our children's children. Well, let's hope so. And our general standard of living, the more we produce, the more we have on offer, the things that we can buy, perhaps the more salaries we earn, we can buy those things, and it goes on and on like that. And of course, it helps the country to be competitive on the world market. And I suppose it may promote in many ways that kind of culture of hard work and dedication, which you see, of course, in many, many countries. I mean, there are so many examples. I'm not going to mention any countries. You know the countries I'm talking about, where work appears to be, the most important factor in people's lives. Well, we've already seen them, I think, things like work-life balance, hard work, economic growth, productivity, increased or decreased productivity, the issues that can arise, the vocabulary that comes out of this. And remember, vocabulary often means in IELTS, this magic word, collocations. I mean, I think there's a lot of great stuff on IELTSPodcast.com and in other places too, let's admit it, on collocations. The way that words, particularly in when we're talking about different topics, does seem to enjoy going together. They live together very happily. Things like, the global market, economic growth, the standard of living. That's the way we say it in English. In other languages, it may translate as the standard of life. But no, in English, it's the standard of living. So people say that they enjoy a good standard of living, or the standards of living are going down in their society, or whatever. Okay. Well, sentences, model sentences connected to this. On this topic, the pros and cons of thinking of working longer hours. Oh dear me. Here's one with although. Remember that although never completes the whole idea just in that part of the sentence. That's why it always introduces a dependent clause. It needs something else to make sense. Although long working hours can lead to economic growth, they can also result in health issues due to lack of rest. Classic although to contrast two ideas. You would want to use a sentence with although in IELTS writing more often than not. It's always a very, very good idea. We're also thinking of other similar things, aren't we, there? Although, while, maybe for a simpler kind of contrast. And another example with our relative clause inserted with who. Workers, give me some more information about these workers. Workers who often prioritize career progression may neglect their personal relationships due to long working hours. The classic syndrome of working in the office every day until 7, coming home and feeling tired and not spending enough time with family and friends. That is a very serious aspect of that type of thing. Okay, other possibilities. How about with if? If workers do not maintain a healthy work-life balance, social issues are likely to arise. Yes, it's quite likely, isn't it? It's a very high probability that will happen if you don't. Just be careful. We hear that all the time. It sounds like a doctor or a friend giving advice. If you don't, then look out, be careful. Something is going to happen. Okay, so a couple more things. Let's think about our essay, a model essay on this topic. I mean, on the subject of essays, don't forget the great new tool that's on the IELTS podcast website, the essay checker. If you sign up to the essay checker, this new essay checker service that Ben is providing now, where you get within, I think, 24 or maybe 48 hours, I can never remember. I'm not so good with numbers sometimes. Your score, comments about where you're doing things well, areas where you need to improve, that kind of instant feedback you're going to get to help you save a lot of time and probably in the long run save money by getting into this website, signing up for that, and also, of course, getting these 2 ebooks, the IELTS Topic Ideas ebooks, completely free of charge at the same time. So you'll have reference to all the things I'm talking about today. You can actually see the text, look at the examples, read these things, think about these things, practice these things at your own leisure, thinking of your work-life balance. Okay, so let's think about a model essay about long average working hours. To what extent do you agree or disagree? With what? Although countries with long average working hours are economically successful, this often has some negative social consequences. Okay, to what extent do you agree or disagree? Classic, no? Doesn't sound too difficult, really, because we're looking at, just one simple idea. We've got this. And we have our classic 4 paragraphs. Again, the opening paragraph sets the scene. It summarizes the ideas that we've got in the question through one sentence and then tells the reader what you're going to do in the essay. The assertion that countries with long average working hours are economically successful but face negative social consequences is a compelling one. This essay will explore both sides of the argument, drawing on examples from various countries. Remember here the interesting ways of rephrasing the words. So instead of has some negative social consequences, face negative social consequences. Well, only one little change there. Could we think of any other changes we could make? Well, okay. Well, paragraph 2, of course, does go into the positive aspects. Proponents of long working hours often point to the economic growth and improved standard of living that can result from such a practice. Examples, your classic examples, Japan, South Korea. Okay, just 2 examples. We could mention more. Of course we could. For instance, countries like Japan and South Korea, known for their long working hours, are also known for their strong economies. These countries have managed to compete effectively in the global market, and their citizens often enjoy high incomes. However, this economic success often comes at a cost. Notice the collocations, nice and simple ones: global market, high incomes, enjoy high incomes, strong economies, long working hours, economic growth, standard of living, improved standard of living. Any examiner will read that paragraph and think very positively, think yes, 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 5 times. Very good use of collocations. That counts for a lot in IELTS writing. Believe me. Paragraph 3 classically begins with, on the other hand, the negative social consequences of long working hours cannot be overlooked. Examples. Workers often suffer from burnout and stress, which can lead to health issues and decreased productivity in the long run. Furthermore, notice the use of the connecting, linking word there to give more information on a slightly different topic. Because this sentence goes on about work-life balance and the negative effects that can have on relationships. And, of course, the final paragraph concludes. What is the conclusion? Well, it's a fairly obvious one. We need a balance. In conclusion, while countries with long average working hours may be economically successful, this often comes at a significant social cost. Therefore, it is crucial for these countries to find a balance between economic growth and the well-being of their workers. It's a decent essay. It's very strong on collocation. It's strong on organization, the paragraphing, etc., etc. Take a look at it. It's well worth looking at, as well as thinking about this same topic in terms of speaking test part 3 questions. Let's take a couple here. You've got 4 or 5 you can consult on the online, but I'll just read out a couple of them. How about this one? I like this one. Should countries strive, in other words, strive means to make a great effort, should countries strive to reduce average working hours? Answer. Wow, that's a tough question. I'm not an expert on this topic, but I guess you could say that ideally countries should strive to find a balance between work and leisure. While long working hours can lead to economic growth, they can also lead to health issues and social problems. Therefore, it's important to ensure that workers have enough time for rest and relaxation. And another one. Well, very, 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 very often you'll get the question referring to your own country. How about this one? How have working hours changed over time in your country? Well, if you're a young person, maybe you haven't really given that much thought, unless you're a keen student of history, economic history, or have talked to, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, or whatever, from their experiences of working life. But here's a possible answer. How have working hours changed over time in my country? Well, I've never really thought about it before, but I guess you could say that in my country, working hours have generally decreased over time. This is largely due to improvements in technology and productivity, as well as increased awareness of the importance of work-life balance. However, there are still some industries where long working hours are common. Yes, you're going to find that all over the world, I guess. No, countries where it seems that the conditions have gradually improved over time, and others where no. Well, okay. Let me just tie things up here by reminding you of the importance of having the right kinds of tools to help you get through IELTS, and one tool, of course, which is absolutely vital, is having your written work checked, as well as your spoken English and things like that. And the essay checker is an excellent way to do that. I would really recommend it. So get into it, and we'll speak again soon. No? Good luck to you, and I'll be with you before you think, probably. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.